Is Newsreel Films presents exciting news? Is the divorce over? Are spirit and science tying the knot once more? Are the church and the laboratory saying the same thing? Out of the misty ages of antiquity, the quest for the divine and the quest for knowledge about the universe marched hand in hand. Ancient Sumer, there was a god of astronomy, a god of horticulture, a god of irrigation, and the temple priests were the scribes and technologists investigating these fields of knowledge. Ancient Greece, philosophers asking the questions of why are we here, developed the theory of the atom, celestial movement, and human ethics. Medieval Europe, the Western Church arose to a position of supreme power. Kingmaker, landowner, and purveyor of the truth. The church took it upon themselves to be the one knower of everything. The dogma was law.
Because it probably goes back to a conviction that some of the books of the scriptures, like the book of Genesis, which deals with the beginnings, is actually telling us about the origins of the world. Now, in fact, any biblical scholar will tell you, and this is not news, that the book of Genesis was never meant to be about the origins of the world. But many churchmen believed that in the book of Genesis you had actual sort of live news, like CNN, about the beginnings of creation. And therefore you had many people down through the ages, like the famous Archbishop James Ussher in Ireland in 1650, who calculated all the ages of the patriarchs back along and worked out to his own satisfaction that the creation of the world occurred in the year 4004 BC on the 17th of September at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yet science had moved forward and now challenged the dogma that the Earth was the center of the universe. Copernicus, Bruno, and Galileo all felt the heavy hand of the church. The tragedy. Unable to suppress science anymore, the church and science divided up knowledge and human endeavor. Descartes invented dualism. The church had the unseen, science the seen, and materialism was born.
Descartes invented dualism to avoid the problem between the church and science.
A long time ago, we made the decision to separate sort of spirit from science. And that science, and we were in this low gauge symmetry state, because there, the effects of most humans, of their consciousness, is very small. And so we were able to learn how to do science. But now we've learned, and now we can take on the richer task of learning to do science when consciousness, a significant amount of consciousness, is part of the experiment.
An uneasy truce. Scientists were no longer being bound, and they reacted with a vengeance. All the unseen is fantasy, delusion. We are strictly little machines running in a predictable machine universe governed by strict immutable laws. The church pushed back. Soulless scientists were condemned to hell.
Back in the 17th century, we came out of a period of time where we saw the universe as this living, vibrant entity to that of the world as a machine. And with that, scientists came along, such as Descartes and Newton, which solidified that concept because they were describing science and mathematics of a non-living world, of inanimate objects, and did some very beautiful calculations and enhanced our understanding of non-living systems. Descartes really looked at the world as a machine. He was very interested in clocks. The problem is they applied this model of a clock or a wind-up toy soldier to living systems as if we understood the parts, the different components of the system well enough, we would understand how the system works, as in a clock.
The key underlying assumptions that most scientists still work under is that we live in a clockwork universe. We live in a mechanistic universe that is conceived of as gears and knobs sort of linking together. That is going to change because we know that that is not true. We know from a physics point of view it's not true. The impact of that change is still somewhat difficult to guess, but one of the areas that I know it's going to make a big impact is in how we understand the nature of human experience. Because human experience in a clockwork world doesn't fit. And that's why in mainstream psychology for many years, the very idea of an internal experience was considered to be laughable. There was no internal experience. It was explained away, and the reason it was explained away is because of this idea of living in a clockwork world.
Darwin countered. The Creator is nothing, nowhere. We are random mutations, simply a carrier of TNA's relentless quest for more in a meaningless universe. And meanwhile, both science and religion were hitting the wall. If everything was mechanistic and God was the holy creator, then what were we humans supposed to do? Science dug ever deeper into a dead universe and stumbled upon and unlocked a mystery.
In the material way of thinking, what happens is that we always shortchange ourselves because we cannot understand love, justice, or even meaning. So we think that the world is meaningless. Love and justice are figments of our imagination, which has no meaning in the first place.
It seems that on the one hand, say, physics is going to be urging that we look at people as if they were mechanical devices, and other kinds of discourses we have about love, about literature, about art, something like that, are going to be asking us to look at people in a very different way than that. And I'm interested at the points at which those two bang into each other. I'm interested in the points at which those two points of view that one can take on the world come into conflict with one another, come into collision with one another. And I'm interested in studying those collisions.
In tiny corners of space and time, scientists found unfathomable energy and mind-numbing mysteries. Mysteries that suggest we are all connected, that the physical universe is essentially non-physical. Time and space are just constructs of this non-materialness.
I think that by looking at where this intersection between science and religion is going to be our best way of really being able to address those issues and to go ahead and do science appropriately and morally and respectfully, but also preserve who we are as human beings, because while science can do a lot of things for us, it still doesn't necessarily change who we are as human beings, which probably is the ultimate reason why we have our problems.
Bringing mind and matter back together again is not so easy to do. The problem is we've been trained so well in science to work with the idea that mind is outside of science that we don't have any way of testing to find mind in science.
I understand the objection from physicists who say that trying to link the spookiness of quantum mechanics to the slipperiness of psychic phenomena is illegitimate. And my response is that I understand the objection. One is mathematically precise and able to be replicated easily in the laboratory. And the other one is very slippery and is full of psychological complexities and all kinds of stuff, including a history of charlatanism and imbeciles and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's clear that that's there. So, of course, you'd want to stiff-arm the competition. On the other hand, when you look clearly at what is the fundamental thing that both of these realms say, they're talking about a form of interconnectedness.
And today, renegade scientists are meeting with religious leaders. Conferences pushing forward a meeting of science and spirit are springing up. As the 20th century blew open the doors of a mechanistic view, will the 21st century blow down the iron wall between the church and laboratory? This is your Is Newsreel reporter, signing off.